In February 2009, a woman was walking her pit bull across a desolate stretch of high desert mesa on the western edge of Albuquerque. The dog, named Duke, wandered off the trail and suddenly began digging frantically into the hard, sun-baked clay. What looked like a weathered piece of wood turned out to be a human femur. Local police were called, and after a brief forensic assessment, they immediately locked down a massive 92-acre perimeter of raw desert. Over several weeks, excavation teams sifting through the dirt uncovered a horrifying reality. They pulled out the skeletal remains of 11 young women and one 4-month-old fetus, all buried in shallow graves just 3 to 4 feet deep. These weren't random disposals. Forensics revealed a highly organized, geometric grid pattern to the burials. The precise, calculated spacing suggested the killer knew exactly where each previous victim lay, using the mesa as a private graveyard. 11 people had vanished and been buried in a coordinated site right on the edge of a major American city. The central mystery remains: how did this many burials go unnoticed for years, literally yards away from new suburban housing? The victims, now known as the Canonical 11, disappeared between 2001 and 2005. They were young Hispanic women working as street-level escorts, and almost all were struggling with severe drug addiction. When these women began to vanish, their families repeatedly sought help from the Albuquerque Police Department. Officers often dismissed their pleas, refusing to file reports and labeling the missing women as transients who had likely moved away. This institutional neglect left the most vulnerable targets exposed. Among them were 22-year-old Michelle Valdez, who was 4 months pregnant, and 15-year-old Jamie Barela, an innocent teenager who was only killed because she happened to be walking with her aunt, the killer's intended target. The killer targeted people already pushed to the margins of society. By choosing victims the system was already ignoring, he ensured that their disappearances wouldn't trigger a massive police manhunt or public outcry. He was able to operate for 5 years because he stayed within the gap created by a police force and a society that refused to protect these women. Because the bodies were skeletized by the time they were found, pinpointing when they were buried required a new kind of investigation. Detectives turned to historical satellite archives from NASA and Google Earth, looking back at the 92-acre lot year by year. In photos taken between 2001 and 2005, investigators spotted active tire tracks and fresh soil depressions forming in the desert. These marks aligned perfectly with the coordinates where the bodies were later discovered, effectively capturing the killer's operational timeline from space. The dates of these satellite disturbances matched the annual Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. This massive event floods the city with hundreds of thousands of tourists, creating the perfect urban chaos for a predator to abduct vulnerable women and slip away unnoticed. Detectives also considered the heavy machinery theory. Given the area was an active construction site, a killer operating a bulldozer or dump truck could spend hours moving soil in broad daylight without anyone questioning why he was digging. The growth of the city provided the perfect shield. The killer weaponized Albuquerque's own infrastructure, using a housing boom and a massive civic festival to hide his graveyard in plain sight. 2 primary suspects eventually emerged. Lorenzo Montoya was a violent local pimp who lived just 2 miles from the site. The burial stopped in 2006, the same year Montoya was killed by a boyfriend of one of his victims. The second suspect, Joseph Blea, was a known serial rapist. During the excavation, investigators found a jewelry tag belonging to Blea's daughter buried directly inside one of the graves, providing a chilling physical link to the site. But the New Mexico environment has proven to be the investigation's biggest obstacle. The extreme desert heat and highly alkaline soil aggressively broke down the victim's biological matter over the years. This severe degradation meant that even with modern techniques, labs were unable to extract a clean DNA profile that could provide a definitive match to Montoya, Blea, or any other suspect. The desert itself destroyed the evidence. For decades, the soil has acted as a silent accomplice, neutralizing the forensic clues that could have finally closed the case. Today, the 92-acre crime scene is gone, paved over by a quiet suburban development. Families now live and children play on the soil where the bone collector once dug. Criminal profilers believe the killer likely stopped because his territory was being invaded. As the housing development expanded, his private burial ground became too crowded and well lit to continue digging in the dark. State crime labs are currently attempting a final push with advanced forensic genealogy. They are cross-referencing the remaining degraded DNA samples with public databases like GED Match, hoping to find a familial link before the biological material breaks down completely. Whether the collector was Montoya, Blea, or an unnamed construction worker, he remains a ghost. There is no conviction, no confession, and the terrifying possibility that he is still alive, watching the city grow over his work. The collector stayed hidden within the blind spots of a society that only began looking at the desert after the bodies were found. He remained invisible because, for 5 years, no one was looking for his victims.